Imagine living in a world without pain, without fear, without death. A paradise where every need was satisfied, every moment was filled with peace, and the presence of God Himself walked among you. Now imagine throwing it all away for a single bite of fruit. That is the shocking story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. But was it really just about disobedience? Or is there something much darker hidden beneath the surface? Some scholars say Eden wasn't just a garden. It was the ultimate battleground of free will, deception, and pride. A whisper from a serpent turned paradise into a nightmare, shaping the destiny of every human that would ever walk the earth. What if the forbidden fruit wasn't simply about knowledge, but about humanity's desire to replace God with ourselves? What if Eden's fall still echoes in the choices we make every single day? Stay tuned, because what happened in Eden may not be as simple as you were taught. The story of Adam and Eve begins in the book of Genesis, the very first book of the Bible. According to the ancient account, God created the heavens and the earth, the stars, the seas, the animals, and everything that breathes. And in the middle of this creation, God formed man from the dust of the ground, breathing into him the breath of life. This man was Adam, the first human being. But unlike the rest of creation, Adam was unique. He bore the image of God. He wasn't just another creature. He was given authority, purpose, and consciousness. He was placed in a garden unlike any other, called Eden, a place where heaven touched earth, overflowing with beauty and abundance. The Garden of Eden wasn't just a physical paradise. It was symbolic of harmony between God and humankind. Rivers flowed through it, dividing into 4 great streams. Trees of every kind grew there, providing both nourishment and beauty. At its heart stood 2 mysterious trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God gave Adam freedom, but with one condition: he was not to eat from the tree of knowledge. If he did, God warned, he would surely die. This command was not about withholding wisdom, but about establishing trust and obedience. Eden was built on a relationship of love and faithfulness between Creator and creation. Yet Adam was alone. Though he had the animals to name and the wonders of Eden to enjoy, something was missing. So, God caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep, and from his rib, God created Eve, the first woman, the perfect companion. Together, Adam and Eve represented humanity's completeness. They were innocent, unashamed, naked, but uncorrupted. Their unity was pure, untouched by jealousy, lies, or fear. For a moment in history, everything was perfect. But paradise never remains unchallenged. Enter the serpent. This creature, described as more cunning than any beast of the field, approached Eve with a question that would shake the foundation of Eden. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? At first, Eve corrected him, explaining that they were allowed to eat freely except from the tree of knowledge, for eating it, or even touching it, would bring death. But the serpent contradicted God directly. You will not surely die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. This was no ordinary conversation. It was a moment of temptation so profound that it would change the course of human destiny. Eve looked at the fruit. It was pleasing to the eye, desirable for wisdom, and nourishing. She took it, ate, and gave some to Adam, who also ate. In that instant, their eyes were opened, but not to the glory they expected. Instead, they realized their nakedness and felt shame for the first time. The innocence that had once defined them was gone, replaced by guilt, fear, and the weight of disobedience. When God walked in the garden that evening, Adam and Eve hid. The intimacy they once shared with their Creator had been shattered. God called out, "Where are you?" Not because he didn't know, but because he wanted them to face what they had done. Adam blamed Eve, Eve blamed the serpent, and the cycle of denial and blame began. But their excuses could not erase their choices. Judgment followed swiftly. To the serpent, God pronounced a curse. It would crawl on its belly and eat dust all its life. More importantly, God foretold enmity between the serpent and the woman, between its offspring and hers, a prophecy that many believe pointed to the eventual triumph of Christ over evil. To Eve, God declared pain in childbirth and tension in her relationship with Adam. To Adam, God declared that the ground itself would be cursed, producing thorns and thistles, and that survival would now require sweat and toil. And ultimately, death would be their fate. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. Adam and Eve were then banished from the Garden of Eden. God stationed cherubim and a flaming sword at its entrance to guard the way to the tree of life. Humanity was cut off from paradise, forced to live in a broken world. It was a devastating exile, a fall from grace that would echo across generations. But what does this story mean for us today? Was it about an apple and a snake? Or is there something deeper hidden in the narrative? Many theologians argue that the forbidden fruit represents the desire to define good and evil on our own terms, to reject God's authority and become our own gods. The serpent's temptation wasn't just about eating, it was about pride, rebellion, and the illusion of independence. Humanity's fall in Eden is mirrored every day in our choices when we prioritize our desires over divine wisdom. Yet within the tragedy of Eden lies a seed of hope. God's curse on the serpent hinted at a coming victory, the crushing of evil by the offspring of the woman. This has been interpreted by Christians as the first prophecy of Christ, who would come to undo the damage of Eden through his sacrifice. In this sense, Eden wasn't just the beginning of sin, it was the beginning of redemption. The story of Adam and Eve doesn't end with banishment. It sets the stage for humanity's greatest rescue. As we reflect on Eden, we cannot escape the haunting imagery of the flaming sword guarding the tree of life. It's a reminder of our separation from perfection, but also of the longing planted deep within us. Across cultures and religions, humanity has told stories of lost golden ages, of paradises we once had but lost, and of the hope to regain them. The Garden of Eden is the archetype of that longing. It's why we dream of peace, why we search for meaning, why we ache for something more. Eden is not just behind us, it's ahead of us too, in the promise of restoration. Could it be that the real lesson of Eden is not about a garden in the past, but about a destiny waiting in the future? The shocking twist is this: Eden's gates may one day reopen, but the question is, who will be allowed to enter? Paradise was lost once. Will it be found again, or will the story of humanity end outside those gates forever?